Hello, everybody. We wait 1 or 2 minutes before we start that more people are joining the room. And yeah, then we can start.
Shall we start? Yes? Okay, good. Welcome everyone to this IHS webinar. I don't see you, we don't see you, we only see the team, but we know that many people have registered, so welcome to everybody. Welcome to this webinar on how and where can technology enable resilience in incremental housing production. We're very excited to organize this in collaboration with a team of Microhome Solutions. Before we introduce the team of Microhome Solutions, let me say a few words on the team of IHS and on the theme in general. The housing team of IHS consists of Alonso Ayala, Bahar Sakis-Lioglu, David Schelkshorn and myself. And at IHS we run the master track on urban housing, equity and social justice, and the professional short course on developing social housing projects. Incremental housing is one of the housing approaches that we lecture on in our master track, and we are also building up our expertise through research and with collaborations with, amongst others, TU Delft, Utrecht University, Khulna University in Bangladesh, and now with Microhome Solutions. Stefan of IHS is managing the webinar jam. You don't see her, but behind the screen she's very, very well there. Very present. David and me will moderate today's session, and we are very happy to see that many of our alumni and colleagues in the field are joining us today, so most welcome to all of you. But let me start with a few words on today's theme. Why incremental housing? What is it, and what does technology have to do with it? Well, as we all know, rapid urbanization and the global housing challenge leads to a quantitative and qualitative housing backlog in the Global South. Supply-side housing models are largely inadequate in terms of affordability, timing of payments, and other needs for many urban dwellers. The current housing challenge is not only one with regard to the quantity of the housing shortage, but also to a large extent to the quality, where essential infrastructure such as safe water, wastewater disposal, energy, and integration into the urban fabric are the main challenges. Incremental housing transformation is a process through which the owner-builders gradually append or improve components of their buildings and their associated infrastructure in a step-by-step approach as funding, time, and materials become available. It is the changing of an original arrangement by households themselves to satisfy their needs and their expectations, which has proven to be a sustainable, inclusive housing solution for the poor in the Global South. Adjusting housing to suit people's needs, culture, and lifestyle is a coping strategy of households that can be adopted to prevent the further erosion of their assets or also to build up their assets, as for instance, research from resettlement sites in Bangladesh and India have shown. And the recognition of incremental housing as an effective housing strategy of the poor is almost 50 years old and inspired by the work of John Turner in the 1970s. The building practice has been recognized as a necessary starting point for socially relevant, just, inclusive, and realistic solutions for persistent housing shortages. There is currently a pressing need for innovative perspectives on incremental housing. This requires considering the involvement of different stakeholders in the transformation process, as it is increasingly acknowledged that much of the incremental housing often is not purely self-built, but it's a process managed by the owner-dweller and undertaken in partnership with other stakeholders. So the question is now, what is the role that technology can play in improving the quality of incremental housing? Well, informal dwellers requires households to spend greater resources on maintenance. And therefore, technology offers a huge potential to bridge this knowledge gap and deliver construction expertise. Information can now be accessed through mobile phones, which have become an essential device in most households and are becoming increasingly affordable. And the vision of today's speakers is to bridge the knowledge and information gap by providing on-demand access to customized engineering data, creative building manuals, along with financial planning tools. So without further ado, let's now go to the speakers whom David will introduce. David, up to you. You're muted.
Sorry. Hello, everybody, also from my side. I see that someone was asking if we record this session. Of course, we will record it and it will be also provided later on for those who cannot attend now. Briefly about the outline of this webinar, we'll briefly introduce the speakers now. Then we will have a presentation and also a demonstration of the tool. We will have a short active break with some polls, and later the last part of the webinar will be Q&A. So I invite you all to drop a message where you are joining us from, and also what you want to hope to take away from this webinar today. Let me now introduce the speakers of today, starting with Mukta Naik. She is an architect and urban planner. She is a fellow at the Center for Policy Research in New Delhi. Her research interests include housing and urban poverty, urban informality, internal migration, as well as urban transformations in small cities. She has written widely in the print and digital media and has also run a market research and media service company. As a trustee for a Gurugram-based NGO and a board member for a Netherlands-based foundation, Mukta is also deeply involved in community-based initiatives. Mukta Naik is a graduate of the School of Planning and Architecture, where she also is a visiting faculty member. She holds a master's degree in urban and regional planning from Texas A&M University and is currently pursuing her PhD in urban development and governance here at IHS at Erasmus University. Welcome, Mukta. Our next speaker is Marco Ferrario, who is an architect and co-founder of MHS Global's Impact, a social enterprise for resilient housing and inclusive cities. He brings a strategic approach to problem solving and has worked on innovations for homeless shelters, solutions for refugee camps, and a digital platform which will be presented today. Marco graduated from the Polytechnic University of Milan, and he interned at the Grameen Bank and participated in the Global Social Entrepreneurship Program at Yale School of Management. In 2018, Marco delivered a TEDx talk in Chennai on inclusive design, right to safe and affordable housing in Indian cities. Welcome, Marco. And Rakhi Mehra is also co-founder of the MHS Global Impact to improve housing conditions for low-income families. She was inspired by Professor Muhammad Yunus' pioneering commitment with the Grameen Bank to make the leap and work in microfinance. Rakhi received a Rhodes Scholarship and holds an MBA from Harvard. She has worked with World Bank, Care India, Ashoka Fellows, Rabobank, and Jeffrey Sachs office at Columbia University. She studied economics at St. Stephen's College in Delhi and read politics, philosophy, and economics at Oxford University. In 2011, Rakhi was awarded the Social Enterprise Fellowship by Harvard Business School. Rakhi now lives in Italy, where she designs experiential learning projects through university affiliations with Bocconi University in Milan, IE Business School in Madrid, and as a visiting faculty member of Franklin University, Switzerland's Masters in International Management. Okay, I think we are on time. I will now give the floor to the speakers, starting with Rakhi.
Thank you, and thanks to everyone who is joining in today. A big thanks to Maartje, David, and Stefana, and IHS for joining in this collaboration and giving the platform for us to sharing our story today. A warm hello and welcome to the attendees, and a special thought in this moment for everyone who's signing in from India and dealing with the difficulties from there. And I know also from around the world where we are struggling with COVID and other non-COVID related issues as well. So hopefully we'll take some energy away from this session and involve you in our journey. For Mukta, me, and for Marco, who will be on the panel today, you have lots of time to ask questions, so please drop that in. I would like to start with 2 minutes, just opening remarks on the MHS journey, which is our journey that started in the Netherlands with the registration of the MHS Global Impact Foundation only last year. Excited to have the board members who've also joined us in that journey. I see Daniel, who's also signed up as a participant. Great to have this support. But MHS's journey, the idea was to work as an action research team, an interdisciplinary team, and immerse ourselves into different community contexts, not necessarily looking at informality or slums or private sector, but really immerse ourselves. And our strategy at that point in action research was to say no to, say yes to every assignment and not say no to anything, to really understand the context. But as David really said before, my experience was in microfinance, both in Bangladesh and working on livelihoods. And as a result, one of the most close linkages we had was trying to understand what customers, clients, and households related to microfinance were doing to address their home needs. How were they going about the process of home construction and home improvement, despite looking at this from a more holistic livelihood as well as micro-enterprise strategy. Our strategy then moved to a build to enable approach, where we really took hands-on projects of working with communities to redesign slum redevelopment projects to work on homeless shelters. And that was the build component. And the enable component was to also engage with wider stakeholder dialogues, because it was a dialogue that was missing. What Marco will be sharing with you is our third startup, so almost a new avatar of MHS as it's evolved through the journey. And the ambition, I would say, to work in collaboration across, and in India, deepen our work in India, but work in collaboration across. And we are absolutely glad to be sharing humbly the 10-year startup journey that we are in, and inviting interest and collaboration from the larger community out there. So Marco will take you into the journey, but before that, Mukta will share her opening remarks and her journey with MHS as well, and where she sees this going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Rakhi. I really have the privilege of having one foot in each boat at this point of time, being part of both MHS as well as the IHS community. I'm really happy to play that role. But I actually entered the MHS journey in the stage 2 when the build program of MHS was going on. And as an urban planner, working with architects and engineers and a lot of people who were very fascinated with what was happening in field and who really wanted to get their hands dirty, I think my role was to take a step back and say, what does this mean for the larger conversation on housing? And that really, I think, transformed MHS's journey in the sense of not just being a social enterprise and sort of doing things and moving from project to project and measuring impact at that level of the project, but actually seeing right from the outset how you're feeding into the policy conversation. And at that time, the work that we were doing in intervening directly into informal settlements, and sort of in a very almost in a naive and unafraid way, jumping in and sort of not saying no to anything, as Rakhi said, but actually doing things, experimenting, not without a big fear of failure, may have seemed a little bit foolish or a little bit reckless at that time, but the value that gave to the policy landscape in terms of feeding it with empirical information about what was being tried on the ground and why things were working or not working. We quickly began to see in our interactions with the World Bank at the time, with interactions with Center for Policy Research, where I now work, and many other funders who were deeply engaged in the housing policy landscape in India, we quickly began to see that this sort of interaction between practice and policy was really the missing piece, and we could play a role there. So I just wanted to, and just as a last point, the reason why we could play that convincing role was because of the strong community engagement component. And many of you have joined from sort of locations across the world where, you know, we know that the contexts that we work in, especially in the global south, are incredibly complex, and informality can really change the nature of a problem. And so that community engagement piece that we could bring in into the conversation as we worked with governments on in situ slum redevelopment projects, on homeless shelter redesign, on incremental housing, which we're talking about today, taught not just us, but also the policy conversation a lot. And today, I mean, sort of 10 years from now, when I'm sitting inside a policy institution and looking back at the journey, I see how it was a voice from the community demanding participation, and a lot of activist movements that take housing very seriously. And that was something that happened in the 70s and 80s in India and many places across the world. And then we had a very long lull in which there wasn't that kind of housing activism. But you're seeing that build up again, you know, as labor unions don't just talk about wages and work, but talk about housing conditions, as, you know, so there's a lot of energy in the housing space again. And I think all of these little interventions have really played a role in building up that momentum. So I'll just stop there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Rakhi and Mukta, for this intro. I think now Marco will present the platform and also give a demonstration for the next half an hour or a bit longer. So, Marco, the floor is yours.
Thank you, David. Welcome, everyone. Today, I will try to present you this platform that we built, NIVA, and I will try to highlight the main feature, and I will use some case study. And this case study are basically the reflection, also the main stakeholder for which we develop NIVA. And I think, like, thanks to Rakhi and Mukta for you know, going through our journey. This has been a long journey. I want to also, while I start to share my presentation, that will be of support also my demo, I wanted to say that we never started the idea of building basically an application. So the idea was not that of going to build a software or an app, but rather than like explain looking for solution. We did lots of mistakes, but I think at some point we also realized that in other fields like healthcare or agriculture or the banking system, mobile technology really has been useful to bridge the gap, to be able to solve some endemic problem. And so we started to look at technology because we couldn't solve the problem of delivering construction technical information at scale. And like has been correctly said in the past minutes, like now we see that incremental housing is more and more important, is more and more recognized as a good vehicle to provide affordable housing. And so with this attention, we also need to be able to support this kind of processes. And so we came up to the idea to try to use technology. And we have this big ambition of collect under one digital repository all the technical solution and material and technology, not only related to housing, but also for water and sanitation, and then to make this available to everyone. So the idea was really to democratize the access to technical assistance as you can have access to healthcare, because we believe that this is the right of like low-income family that now don't have access to maybe professional like architects or engineer, and this happen across the world. So we need to thank for this journey. We started this digital journey, I think like about 4 years ago. And especially in the past 3 years, we got the great support of Cisco, but also other partners that believe in our vision and help us to create this, let's say, complicated tool. So say that, I will now basically try to demo some of the feature of the platform, and something will be missing, but hopefully we'll be able to cover maybe in the second part of the conversation. The main key feature that our platform has are the capacity to create customized project estimates, bill of quantities, so the material that is related to the specific project, and also customized building manual. That's maybe the more innovative kind of feature that we are proposing. And then by combining the first three, we also think that we can be able to track the cost progress of a project, and also the quality, so the structural safety of a specific project. The four case study that I was mentioning are basically the end users, so the homeowners and the mason that live in like low-income communities. These are the people that need this kind of access to this information, because sometimes for them incremental housing is the biggest investment of their life, and if they do it wrong, it may cause a set of serious problems that maybe we can see in detail. Second group are like the more and more, I would say, luckily, company and agency that are providing housing finance, not only for housing, but also for water and sanitation. So they also have the problem of, they have the technical appraisal that is an important component of their operation that sometimes is like depend on a specific capacity to create technical information. The third one are like the agency, the government that are working in disaster risk reduction and post-disaster context. Here is where we think that our platform can also make an impact. And finally, skill development agency, because again, has been mentioned, like low-income family depend on mason coming from the same socioeconomic background. And if the mason, the workforce is not trained in a correct way or equipped with the good tools, then the quality has a repercussion on the quality. So say that, I will start with the picture of Mahesh. This is one of the samples that we collect over these years. We collect hundreds of these cases where Mahesh started his construction and eventually the cost doubled almost during construction, so his house was unfinished. This is like of estimates that usually end up to be much more during construction, is a very common problem. It also, that of gross estimate, it also affect the kind of relation between mason and homeowners, or the small contractor and the homeowners, because there is a lack of transparency, and as a result, we have the problem that come from this not having exact estimate of bill of quantities, that the house may sometimes are unfinished. There is a risk of like compromised structure because the money is less than planned, and then there is a risk of over-indebtedness. So what we wanted to do when we started, the first thing that we wanted to do was a budgeting tool, something that could help a person like Mahesh to understand how much my house project is going to cost. And so say that, I will kind of jump to my to our NIV interface. And this is what the interface look like when you access our web app. And I do apologize if there is some kind of urban background, but I'm in office. Just bear with the noise 1 second, sorry. Okay. So this is, like I was saying, this is a web app, is mobile friendly, so any connected platform can access this. It's responsive, so if you access on your phone, we'll have this design. If it's on the tablet or on the desktop, you will have a different kind of ratio. I will now access as, let's imagine that I'm Mahesh. So I've signed in as a single user. I'm going to access my NIV platform. And well, in this case, no, I did access as Lakshmi and not as Mahesh, but say that this is a single user. And I can very simply do two things. I can create a project or I can create an estimate. As I was saying, we did create NIV for a range of projects that are specific for the incremental housing. So it can be a new building, completely a new construction, or an expansion, or it can be a minor project. So these are typical of the incremental process where you may want to add a toilet or you want to do a new flooring, and you can combine a few of these projects. But in this case, we'll make a new a main project, and we'll do, for instance, like the estimate of an horizontal expansion. So once I select the type of project, I then go to the steps that allowed me to generate the estimate. And the steps are like, one is related to the location data. So very simply, I can input some place name. Many are not mandatory and are more relevant for agency. You'll see it later. These are mandatory related to risk. So let's say that I'm further than a water body. Let's say I'm in a sloping area and I'm not in a flood-prone area. I can also take picture and I can update the location data. Taking picture or geotagging the project is super simple if I'm on my mobile. We also have an Android version of this that is downloadable, and some features are, of course, easier to do. I'm in Hyderabad, and the second thing that I will do is to start to write information related to the construction type. So these are the three main common ones. Maybe I'll go back. You may be familiar, but this is like the three different type of construction. So frame construction with the column, pillar, and beams. This is like an confined masonry that is a mix between that one of above and then load-bearing construction. So let's say I want to do an horizontal expansion in load-bearing. I can choose the soil type. I can choose the type of bricks that I use. I'm in Hyderabad, so this is going to be zone 2. The seismic zone and the soil type determine the type of structure that I can have. Let's say that I want to build something that is, I don't know, 30 feet by 19.3 feet, whatever. Let's say that I want the roof to be, again, in concrete. I want to have a terrace, maybe. But I can also choose other type of roof, and I can also map, if in this location is available, other type of roof that maybe are less traditional. So mud roof, for instance, is like as innovative like type of roof that is available in Hyderabad and other part of, in Ahmedabad and other part of India. So let's say I want anyhow to have a slab. And this is an horizontal expansion, so I need to say where and how much is touching the existing building. So say that maybe for the shorter side is attached. So 19.3 is what it is. The next step, I need to decide, or I let the system decide what is the number of partition for this specific kind of volume. And finally, in the last step, I need to decide how many toilets I want. So let's say I want 1 toilet, and what kind of finishing I want. And the finishing is where we can really give the homeowners the opportunity to decide for himself. So we get completely away from the concept of like the model house to give an estimate of a design, but to let them decide based on their ambitions if they want to have stone or if they want which kind of like finish they want for in their toilet, if they want tiles and so on. There are a few other options like the type of door and window. Let's say it's okay, I want a staircase to the terrace, and I simply generate an estimate. So that's what it takes to now generate the estimate that it's quite accurate because it goes down to the rupees. It's 672,000 rupees. I know exactly how much I was going to spend. I have the breakup. I know what the structural cost is. I know what the finishing cost is. And I also know this breakup between material and labor for the two, and how much material I need. So how many bricks, how many bags of cement, how many quantity of sand, and so on. And the same breakup is available for the sub-level. So this is where also I can start using this information to negotiate or to deal with the mason. Because this maybe is a mason that create this or is homeowners, but they can share each other this estimate. And then they can agree that at a certain time, the payment will be this after the foundation, and so after the ground floor, and so on. In the moment I create a project, so this is Lakshmi House. In the moment I create a project, basically every information is stored. So my inputs are stored, the labor and material rates that I use. In this case, they were for Hyderabad. And as I was saying, I can review the estimate. If maybe I want to, it's too much, I can go back, I can change maybe instead to have like tiles premium, I can have tiles budget, or I can have to start cement, plaster, and so on. I can review the estimate, and basically you can see that the cost went down. So once I'm happy, I save my project, and that's it. My project is saved, and I can always access the data anytime. But especially, as I was saying before, I can share this estimate with through email or even through SMS, if maybe the mason or the homeowner still have an old Nokia like feature phone. And if I'm on Android, I can also share this by WhatsApp. And so this is like the kind of like first main feature that I wanted to show you, the capacity to create an estimate, a detailed estimate for a different range of project. Now you bear with me while I go back to my presentation. And the second part, that the second stakeholder that I would like to discuss is very closely related to what we just did, because there are more and more companies providing housing finance, but their technical appraisal either depend on external vendors, so architect, engineer of like different kind of small company, or they have an internal capacity. But our experience and many studies say that providing technical assistance to their beneficiary is something that rarely happens. And this is because it is expensive to hire technical personnel. It's difficult to retain them. And it has a cost that hardly can be borne by this financial institution. And so we really wanted to work to support them because currently they have a problem of a sometimes very digitalized and quick process to identify potential clients, sanction, do the socioeconomic survey and sanctioning a loan, but the technical appraisal still is a funnel where everything stops because it takes few days before a technical person can give the estimates or can perform a visit during construction and so on. And also, it's sometimes impossible to monitor the quality of the sponsor house and pass the technical information to their beneficiary. And this is something that even in the recent conversation with the CEO of Indostar, a company that we are working with since a month, they really would like to do this. They really would like to pass this technical information to their beneficiary, but so far they didn't find a good way to do that. So back again to our NIF platform, I will now sign in, not as a single user. So I will sign out from here. It's the same interface, and I will sign in as an agent. In this case, Rakhi, you are the agent I'm going to use. Now, as you can see, the dashboard is much more populated. There are more kind of options here, including a list of beneficiary, a section that is to monitor the loan. We built like basically a basic CRM system because we realized that many agencies didn't have even the normal process like digitalized. So we want to give the opportunity also to map their beneficiary and the loan. But more importantly, in the moment I sign in, you can see that I'm Rakhi. I'm part of MHS City Lab. I'm assigned to 2 locations, Ahmedabad and Delhi. And this is because when you use NIV as an agent of an agency, the first thing when we create an account for an agency, we map all the location where this agency is working. And then we also add their agent, and each agent basically is assigned to one or more location. So now we just basically can do the same thing that we did before, but you can imagine that now is an agent that is going maybe to meet, let's say, Ashok Kumar is a person that has been already screened by the financial agency. And let's say that now the same person that doesn't necessarily has a technical background, but has been trained to use this platform can sit with Ashok. And in this case, you want to build a new building, say, and they can go through the same process of before. The difference is that compared to what's happened now, when an external vendor goes, collect the data, then go back to his office, and then after a couple of days, share the information directly with the office of the financial institution. Now, in this case, Rakhi, that is the agent, can sit with Ashok, and they can decide together what is a project that they want to do. This goes as before. In this case, as I was saying, we also have the opportunity to add like some information that may be useful for the company, like the land value, the distance from the water, and so on. The part related to the risk is still there. So let's say that we wanted to, this is not in a sloping area, but it is in a flood-prone area. I can add the picture. I can again have like all the information on the site that I want. Let's say it's in Delhi. And this time, say I want to have a confined masonry type of structure. This is very common also in post-disaster. And I can decide, I can choose the soil type. The type of bricks and the type of material depend again on the type of construction. So if I choose reinforced concrete, you can see that I have 2 options. These are the most common type of bricks in India. If I choose another type of construction, the system automatically eliminates what is not feasible for that. Delhi seismic zone 4, and say I want the same slab as before. In this case, I need to choose the configuration. If I'm in an urban context, I may have the house surrounded by other building, or if I'm in a more rural or peri-urban situation, or maybe in a tier 3 city, it's possible that I have 4 sides open. I will choose this. And then I have to input the dimension. You see that before the dimension were in feet. In this case is in meter. So when you create a company or when you register as a single user, you can decide which kind of dimension unit you want to use. So for MHS, we are using meter. Let's say I have a house that can be 4 by 7, I don't know, 8 by 5 meter. There is a range, so it goes from 2 by 5 by 3 meter, very tiny houses, to 9 by 14 meters, more or less. This is the range that we have now. And then you can decide the number of floor. Say, as before, the number of floor can be decided based on the construction type. So maximum is 2 for confined masonry. And the other thing is the same as before. And this I will not even like, I already explained how you can choose your finishing type. You can have some extra, they can be mapped by location. Say I want the roof, water tank, and again, I generate the estimate. So this is a Ashok Kumar project. I can give a code, whatever. And the same thing I did before. I can like edit the project rates because maybe he already has the bricks, or he already is his brother is a carpenter, so he doesn't have to pay the labor of the carpenter. So you can adjust the rates for the specific project, or you can review the estimate and get to, you know, the figure that he was looking for, and then you can save the project. And once the project is saved, again, I'm an agent. I can share the estimate with him, and I can actually, the first thing that actually I should do is I can map him as a beneficiary. So now the project is not yet just done, but it's also a proposed, and I can also submit for review. So remember, this is like the interface for agencies. So there is a way where you can put a comment and submit basically your project for review. The thing is that while I was on field, maybe on my mobile building this, my manager or my other colleague in office immediately can see this data, because the data is all in the cloud. And in the moment I create, I perform an activity, this is immediately reflected on the dashboard of the other person that is accessing the same kind of the same NIV platform for the same, of course, for the same company. Every company is a completely closed room where only the company admin and agent can access. With this, I will now try to jump to the last and more important, I think, feature of our platform, that is the capacity to create manual of construction. And this is of support of, can be a support of the many good policy that are coming now. We have a good one now in India, for instance, where the government is giving money to households that are engaging in a self-construction of a house. They are giving, like, I think about 50% of the cost, up to $3,000 US, more or less. And you know, they already have a process where they know that they are going to give this in 3 installments. There is a selection process, of course, for the beneficiary. There is a geotag system that allowed them to identify and localize every beneficiary. But from what we know, they are struggling, because the policy also say that in order to give the different tranche of loan, they should also check the quality. And now we have government like Maharashtra, where they have like 1,000 of units that are planned to be built, but only a handful of like professional technical personnel. And so because this is spread over like a big region, how can 15 engineers perform a visit to all this construction? And so again, the idea that NIV has at its base, that is that can a non-technical people use and generate technical inputs come and help. And I have to say that what you see here, these are like two field officers of SAT, an agency we work with Ahmedabad. We trained them in the past, I think we were there just before COVID. And within a few days, they, without any technical background, they were able correctly to generate this kind of information. The other context where this can be very relevant is that of post-disaster, because post-disaster is where you need immediately to deliver information. Otherwise, the risk is that people, as soon as the risk is gone, they immediately start to build. They cannot wait for, even the days or the weeks, sometimes the months of like the different organization to set up shop and to organize themselves to provide this information. And I witnessed this myself in after the reconstruction in the Philippines, after the Typhoon Haiyan. So it's important to be able to immediately provide this kind of key inputs to avoid the same mistake. And so NIV can work as support in this area. Again, agent can use this, or directly people can use this. Depend on the level of digital literacy of the end user, I would say. And I will also basically point out the fact that whatever I'm demonstrating now, you can imagine that can be taught to mason and construction worker, because one of the limit of like skill training program is that they are limited in time, and anyhow it's impossible to teach a mason how to design a structure of a frame structure of 3 floors. It's something that even I can't do. You need to be an engineer to do that. You need to use specific tool. And so why not to teach a mason how to create an estimate, or how to even, as I'm going to demonstrate now, create a manual of a construction and then follow this construction. So I think what cannot be taught, you can equip with a tool that can help them perform better. So I'm sorry that this is a bit of a monologue, but later on I hope that there will be questions on this. I will, for the last time, probably go back to my NIV platform. Let's imagine that now Rakhi is part of an agency that is working in one of these contexts. Let's say that I'm working exactly for the government that wants to, give this loan, but also want to make sure that the quality of what they sponsor is good. Or maybe it's a housing finance company that has this aim. So if I go back to what we just created, we know that the project is under review. So I think Rakhi has a role 1. There are different roles that an agent can have. So she will have the capacity to approve a project. So she will approve a project. And once the project is approved, now there is a new set of things that I can do. And the first thing that I can do is, for instance, check the construction status. This is like coming back to housing finance company is very important. The first thing I want to do is how much money has been spent. So I can use this very simple interface. You remember this is just a 2 floor, so you can see foundation, first floor. Let's say that when I go after a month, I can say that excavation foundation is done. And let's say that also the ground floor foundation and electrical is getting done, but none of the second floor is done. I can put a comment. I can again take a picture. In this case, like to take a picture, it's super easy if I'm on my on my mobile, but in this case, I can also upload. And so I'm going to upload a picture that in this case is on my desktop. And so I can see what is the progress. I can take as many pictures, I can update the status, and automatically I can see that now 54% of my building, 54% of the money has been spent. And I have a construction history here where I can always know who performed the visit, when. I can see the picture, and you know, I can always access what has been the history of this project. So you can imagine I do this, and I use this to decide how much money to give and when. Now, we go back to the manual. So let's say that now I want to create a manual. This happens in the same time I do create a manual. So this is not a manual that has been created for any other project. This is a project that has been created for this particular client or beneficiary. So this is the Ashok Kumar house. Has been created on this date. Here you can see all the information that we saw, and the graphic that you can see here is not a graphic that is a general graphic, but is like we have a repository of thousands of different graphic, thousands of them, based on the construction type, of course, based on all the dimension, all the inputs that we put. So we basically use an algorithm that is parallel to the algorithm of the estimate to generate through a BIM methodology these graphics. Here you have a little bit of a summary estimate, all the inputs that we choose, but this is where we can start to give really like specific information for your project. This is not a manual where you need to go through cases to understand if the beam need to be this high because I'm within 3 or 6 meter span, how many partition I need to have. This is a manual that tells you just what you need to know. So in this case, the first information is that you should not build 3 floors, because for this construction type, only 2 floors can be built. The second information is like a little bit about some material that is specific for usually the country where we use, and the bylaws that we use to map all this information. In this case, we don't have a map, because I did here. If you were on the mobile, you would have seen the map of the building. You remember that we select like a risk close to the flood-prone area, but not in the sloping area. So why to give all these do and don'ts when there is no risk? So we just highlight what are the real risks that you select, and then we give do and don'ts only for this particular kind of scenario. So there is no, otherwise there will be an extra page that is about don't build close to the cliff, like move a few meters ahead. These are like do and don'ts that you may have seen in many self-construction manual. We still like create them after disaster or like as a, you know, for disaster risk reduction program, but these are specific again for the location and for your building. Some other do and don'ts. And then this is like, again, this is like specifically for the project of Ashok. So now Ashok knows that he need to put this column, he need to put this beam. This is a suggested perfect way to have the entrance and optimize the space based on the configuration of the building. And here he has some detail of the structure where he can see what is the dimension is. And then you start to have the IKEA part. That's what we call the IKEA part. So this is like a step-by-step, starting from the foundation. All this information related to the different node of the foundation. So what is the size of the foundation? I'll show you. This is also responsive. So it's an HTML manual that then can be downloaded or shared. And you also give information about what is the depth of the foundation, what is the size of the foundation, how much reinforcement you need, what is the size of which type of beam, and what is the type, sorry for my scrolling, as some problem, what type of beam I'm using, and so on. So all this information is dynamic. Every time I create a project, there are information that may vary based on the size, based on the dimension. This is like part of the column. It tells you how many bar you have. This case is 410. If it's RCC, you can have like 20 different options, but you'll only get your option, that one that is needed to have. And these, of course, are also graphics that the Mason can understand much better than what is usually in the construction manual. So this is what we managed so far. Now we are about 20 pages. We are adding more page, and I can show you like some other graphic that we are creating. But by having this kind of manual, we can really provide different information for different projects, because every approved project, now I'll try my luck, I'll get another one that has been approved.
Marco, sorry to intervene, but could you, looking at the time, could you start?
Yes.
Wrap
I
up?
think I have I'll take another 2 minutes to wrap up.
Fine.
I will just, this case is not a project that has, let me see this project. Okay, so this is another one, for instance, just to give you an idea that you can see this is like a completely different, different project. You will have different probably risk, exactly. And so this is again, is the capacity to create a specific project. So now I will stop here. I can explain a few things later. I will just show you, this is the last time I share my screen, I promise you. I will just share with you my entire screen to give you an idea about, I don't know, I hope you can see my screen. But this is like some other kind of information that we are going to add. So we can also have what ventilation you need for a specific unit. So we can say open the windows only. Here in this case, maximize cross ventilation, and we can say exactly how many windows you should have, or which type and where, to reach like the standard of like. So we can not only look at the structure but also the quality. And then I think I had and with this I promise I finish. I think that's another thing that I have. I just finished with the presentation, or maybe I will take it later. But the other thing that this can be used, if you imagine having this information, then this can be used to basically map what has to be done. So you can, I have a problem with my mouse, but yes, if you have this kind of manual, and you can access this manual anytime you do a visit, you can recreate this manual, then you can have something that is, you just have to say yes or no, or partially. That can enable you, even a non-technical person, to make sure that whatever was decided and approved is matching in the quality. So are the number of columns the same as in the manual? Are the depth of the foundation the same? And that's it. With this, I think I finished my demo. Sorry for going over 3 minutes, but yeah, it was a lot of show.
Thanks a lot, Marco, for this demonstration and for the presentation. And there are a lot of questions already in the chat room regarding the tool itself, the contextualization of the tool, about the target groups, how they can apply the tool, and so on. We will make a very, very brief break before we make the Q&A, but only for like 3 to 5 minutes, because there are a lot of questions. We will not be able to respond to every single one, but the speakers especially are also interested in who is joining today and where the interest is coming from. So we make a quick poll, and we will ask you about your background, where you work, where you are involved in. I will start the poll now, and you can simply click the type of organization or profession you're working in. You should see it in the right side of the chat. So we have different options if you work in an NGO or in a private company or in a governmental institution. People are still entering their data. Okay, a lot of people from the NGO sector and also from the higher education sector. Okay, NGO is the majority of the attendees, almost half. Still entering the data. Only a few governmental institutions. Okay, good. The next question we would like to ask you is, what is the main focus of your organization? So are you involved in urban or urban strategic planning? Are you working with human rights? But also more specifically, maybe interesting for the speakers, if there are people who work in post-disaster or disaster risk reduction. Okay, many planners, potential many IHS alumni, but also some housing finance attendees. Okay. And a few disaster and disaster risk reduction attendees are also joining. Okay, that's interesting, because I think also for the speakers it's interesting where the interest is coming from, no, for this tool. Okay. I think we should now continue with the Q&A. We have 25 minutes left. So, yeah, as said, we already have a lot of questions in the chat.
Yeah.
And we have collected them, and Maartje can start.
Yes, thanks.
Post some questions.
Yes, so there were lots of questions, so thanks for that. It's very nice to see such active participation. I will start. Shall I just start with two questions? Do you want me to pose them to any of you, or just leave it open and you will see who will answer, or I will just decide who is going to answer this?
Happy to take them on, Maartje. Yes.
Okay. I'll just read them out, because there were quite a few questions on the use of sustainable building materials. And there was a question on what is your position on the use of sustainable building materials? Do you stimulate that? And how do you count for new innovative sustainable materials? Another one is on the building permits and standards. Are they required? What is your experience? And is there flexibility on how to deal with them, with the building standards? Okay, let's leave it to that and come with, let us first go to the answers.
Thanks, Maartje. And while Marco's taking a break after that presentation, I will take the first one, but since it's also technical, I will pass on the second one on building codes to him, and hopefully Mukta will jump back on. On sustainable, in terms of position, we, as you see, work with agencies, both in terms of, so it's very much a social enterprise to agency model. So the experiment that we've done in working directly with homeowners and masons has been limited. It has been mostly through intermediaries. And if the intermediary has been working on, as you saw, on a new roofing and a sustainable roofing material, then we are able to get that the technical details and map it as we did with mod roof and include it in our NEEF system and make that available. So it also adds as an awareness to make it available as and when other agents are on field. Unfortunately, or let's say work in progress, we don't map all the sustainable business, the materials available, and then promote them at this point. We add into repository the tools and the materials and products and services that our partners at this point are offering and make that widely available across the network. So in that sense, it is limited to the networks that in the partnerships we have, and hopefully that will grow. I will leave the technical question to Marco on the requirement of business on the building laws, but hopefully that answers in terms of, are we agnostic to sustainable materials? What are we doing to actually promote them? And to what extent can we influence also the materials, the quality of construction in that perspective?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for all the question. Actually, I will try to be very quick because I already spoke a lot. But regarding the fact of the building code, so where the manual especially, but also the estimates are based on structure that are designed according to the standard that are required by the specific country. So what you see now, what you saw is that the platform that has been mapped for India, and so the design of the structure, even for confined masonry, are based on that standard. Our aim is that to provide indication on structure that if you follow, lead to structure that basically are safe and will not collapse. Maybe they will get damaged as it should be, but they will not collapse in case of an earthquake. That's our main kind of goal related to the structure. So yes, the code are being considered, and this can lead to another question that is related to material and other areas. So as I said, this is for India, but the software is designed to be mapped to other regions. So if you want to work in Mexico or Colombia, what we need to do is like to update the database and the research of the engineering solution, and we need to basically recreate that for a database that then will be used in that region. In the same way, the app can be, it's already translated in Hindi, and the interface you can use in Hindi, you can use in Spanish. But for now, we are only make this available to India for that reason, because we haven't yet started mapping other countries. We want to do Nepal soon. For that, is like Rakhi said, we are also looking for partnership. We are looking for support. This is quite a significant effort that we are doing. It's a gigantic work. But let's say that the platform now is ready to be mapped and used. So if in a specific region or sub-region, some material are not available. So in Mexico, you have different bricks. You will find that. And if there are materials that are sustainable, like that of the mod roof, we are happy to provide that and to map that into the platform. That could also be used by the mason. We can create awareness because the mason, he may see this as an option and say, hey, what it is. And we wanted to add like button that give a pop-up and link to that. So we are looking into that. And one last question that I see.
I think Maartje has some more. She has
to add up to that, because there was also a question on the does the app also enable construction of kucha and semi-puka housing? It does then. So you can change the variables or the indicators in the program itself.
In the India now we don't have like a semi-permanent kind of structure, but any system can be mapped.
Okay, you can adjust it. Okay, and then also, you were talking about the contextualization. So you can change the variables according to the context, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so you can also introduce it in Colombia or wherever there's a need and an interest that can be adapted.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead. You were not finished yet. Sorry.
I was just saying that I saw a question that was related to where this is available. So I was saying this is available in India. Currently, we are making this available to any end user, mason and homeowners for free. I think by tomorrow will be available on Google Store, the mobile version for Android. And then we are, creating different kind of partnership and agreement with the agency. But we want to go in other countries as well.
Yeah, there was a question on, suppose if a homeowner chooses not to add the foundation because he wants to save costs. Does then the program immediately stop? You say, okay, you cannot construct, or does the program then say, okay, you have to adjust the walls? I'm not a technical person, but I'm just, can that work or not?
Well, not really. I mean, this is like solving one problem, that is what of making available like customized technical information. The fact that the homeowners will follow or not follow this information, it's something that we cannot really check, but we want someone to use this tool to check that. But certain things you can do. If you want to say, I want to build a structure without foundation, the system will not allow you to create a manual for a structure without foundation.
Yeah, Marco, I think that was the question. And since Mukta is also technical here, it is really a trade-off in saying, how can you make that information accessible and available and provide all the incentive and empowerment for the person to do it, including giving the awareness, the finance, the technical knowledge, but that decision is finally made by the homeowner. So you want the homeowner to be empowered to make that decision. So as many of you have correctly written, this current process is being intermediate through their trustworthy agencies that they work with. A lot of the organizations we work with are trusted with community members, Seva, MHT, SAT. They are community-based members that actually go house to house for different activities. So coming from them, that information is greatly acceptable. When we make that leap and go work directly with end users, as the other of you have mentioned, is where we have to understand how does that trust get transferred with technology as well. Right now, we are going through our known networks and very much community-based organizations as well.
Yeah, to link up to that, Rakhi, because it's not only about the trust, but it also is about the digital literacy of this particular group. So do you have information on that, and how do you adjust to that? So the access to the technology and also the digital literacy.
Yes, I would say, and if Mukta is here, she can come back in. Actually, 5 years ago, when we began the process of digitizing this content, just to expand and address the demand that we were getting on field in MHS, we created digital kiosks in material stores and in our organization where homeowners were dropping in perhaps to get a license or a ration card and also getting this information. So it was assisted. And I saw a question about how much assistance do you need? And very soon we realized that while the Android and the smartphones are not penetrated, it is a matter of time. What we need to do is work and empower also the field staff to do this. So let's say that we are trying to straddle both. We are trying to straddle both the aspect of working with intermediate organizations that have access to smartphones and can share it with the information with someone who has the basic phone, whereas at least if one member in the family has access to a smartphone, they are also able to understand it. So in India, let's say the smartphone access is not as widespread. However, we are hoping that leap is going to happen, and we need to be ready when that transition takes place.
Thanks. But there was also a question about, so not only about the digital literacy, but also about the cognitive limitations of translating a graphic design of a model into a concrete building, to understand these scale models, how to interpret that. So how does the manual address this? Does it address it? And do people need hand holding, or how do you deal with that?
Okay, maybe I can just quickly answer this, because we spent, like Rakhi said, I think the first year of this project was only on field, speaking with Mason and small shop material owners and end user. And currently, so we realized that there is this kind of understanding about the visual, especially related to construction, that is it's very limited, and it's something that I think that, to answer your question, we don't know yet. We don't have yet an answer. I think hopefully we got just like a catalytic grant approved to exactly test that, to test the understanding of this graphic information that our end user can have. Now in 5 years, this has changed a lot, like Rakhi say. And the reason is that we took very long to build this feature of the manual. As I say, it's going to be completed in June, and June is when we should start this specific approach. But to be sure, like the current existing self-construction manual, or like even the material that are passed to the skill training agency, participants, it's much more complicated. There are 2D design or like schematics. You need to be able to read for sure, while many of our end users are semi-literate. And so, yeah, we are working on that. We hope that we'll find that through continued engagement, the perfect graphic. Yeah, this is a good thing of using this technology, because now Android phone allowed even audio, video. So we have really the potential to do much better than the old books.
Mukta, you wanted to respond?
Yeah, I just wanted to link that comment with the role of intermediaries overall in markets like India, where, you know, in the wake of the COVID pandemic, we've really seen that even simple things like government welfare schemes or cash transfers, or, you know, registrations under certain kinds of benefits, which are done through very simple applications, also require an ecosystem of intermediaries to connect these things to the poor. So it's interesting that as these kind of tools get popularized, the intermediary ecosystem also develops side by side. So it's also a matter of scale. So when government schemes they start with a very large scale. So the intermediary city, which we have to deal with in the best way possible. Just wanted to put that out there.
Thanks. Yeah, so there have also been pilots, and there was a question on what have been the responses of the users of Neve in the field. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yes, I have to say that the response of the users. So who are our users, first of all? Like when we realized after the first year that it was too early to directly work with end user, we kind of pivot and we say, okay, let's work on a B2B2C model. Let's work with like financial institutions that we have a great history, we have a great network, we understand because of Rakhi background how microfinance work. Let's work with them and let's try to train their agents so that they can pass this information to the end user. And I mean, you know that also we got, as many other organizations, this COVID situation that really stole our presence, because we started exactly 2 years ago when the second version of Neve was ready, but then we had to stop last March. We are restarting now, but little by little, the responses, I think the response of the agent has been good in the way that they are able to perform Neve, and at the manager level, I think that at least like the company we are working with, there is a leadership, willingness to use this tool at scale. Because I think they can see both the operational advantage, but also the capacity to provide to their customer an additional value that is that of construction technical assistance.
And I would just add, Maartje, to the question again, this is like the balance we're trying to strike. So which features should we prioritize and develop, right? And we're talking about why go digital and where is that value there? It was interesting, and this is much before COVID, we saw that the agencies, or let's say the community workers, were actually taking screenshots and sharing that through WhatsApp and different mechanisms with the end users. So we saw that happening, and then we decided to create that function of doing, even if it's not accessible directly, there's a chance to share through a PDF or a mechanism across there, showing us that there is value. Of course, in terms of any user interface, the accessibility, the ease of use to absorb that much information, what is the right mechanism is something that will be work in progress. But we've trained more than 75 staff, everything from people who've had actually more like tablets, which has been easier for the interaction to take place. So the housing finance companies and the financial institutions have had larger, sort of easier to use technology to do that, and with some of them on also mobile phones, and to be able to run these experiments. So let's say it's very early phase, but we are hoping that once non-technical people start to use it, Marco has been also sort of tracking the training we gave to a subset of Masons and saying how many of them are still using it to track and generate estimates after a very 3-day training, and what is the right format of training to be able to do that. So absolutely, it is an assist to say, okay, if it's not such a big hassle, let's talk.
Yes, thanks. And it also requires regular updates. Who is in charge of those updates? Updating the prices, etc.
Yeah, exactly. I see also some question related. So as an admin of NIV, we do provide a set of default rates for material and labor for tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 city. That's what the system come equipped. And then, as I say, if you are a company, every location can be customized, and that's what usually we do. What we do is that usually we look at governmental kind of publication, like the DDR, the daily rates, schedule of rates, whatever. And we match that with like market-based, rates that we collect by our partner or by being on field and so on. So every few months we update the rates. And that's, again, every country need to have this specific exercise.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. There was also a question about the government. Are you planning to take this tool to the government? And for instance, can the application be useful to implement and to monitor upgrading schemes by the government? How do you see that?
Well, I think there is another question by someone that say which kind of partnership you look for. Maybe Rakhi can answer this.
But the first one for Mukta, yes.
Yeah, I can take the government question. So I think it would be hard for incremental. I mean, in the sense that if we are looking at upgrading, for government in India at least is not really directly intervening so much in slum upgrading and incremental housing kind of project. So that's sort of more in the private homeowner space. The tool, of course, can be customized. And as far as the government partnerships is concerned, I wrote that in the chat as well. It is definitely, there is a component of India's flagship housing program called the beneficiary-led construction program, which is precisely money that the government basically subsidizes construction for people who own their own plots of land and want to construct on it. So definitely the tool can be lined up there, and that's an opportunity that we have to look for going forward. But we'll have to work with individual state governments for what the appetite is in terms of bringing in technology like this into their scheme of things.
And if I can add to that and take the larger partnership question as well, of course, the first person you go and say, what is a small social enterprise trying to move the needle on such a big housing, and starting with the Indian market, right? So yes, we are a bit crazy on that. The idea with government is that when we designed the tool was to say, we didn't actually want to create a platform. We know what an investment entire platform does. And then as we work with our agencies, we realize that a standalone platform, as you saw, as with NIV, offering all the features is also possible. But since many agencies and government partner, right, because it is quite a unique space, even if you are doing a sustainable flooring exercise, it's quite unique to you and your operations. And what we hope is that a tool that is available in the market doesn't have to reinvent the wheel. We know what it takes to develop a tool, invest in a tool, and actually take certain components off the shelf and make that into a powerful package and customize it to your reality where it is. So government is absolutely included in that list of partnerships. And we know that for government to actually have a buy-in, the big key perspective right now is understanding the actual unfinished homes, the story of unfinished homes in India, as less about the quality, more about saying, is the money actually leading to a complete structure? And we hope that dialogue will happen once there are certain numbers that we are able to work with at this point.
Thanks. I have one, maybe the last question on the sensitivity of the data. How do you deal with the data, and how do you ensure that you protect this data? Who manages and who owns the data, and what is done with the data when the construction is finished?
Okay, I can answer that. So I think like we did develop this tool really like organically. So first it was us, our team, then David would come to help to make the first version of the software. Then Swam International, a software company, supported us for the second version. And the result is that through these steps, we also got aware of this problem, and we wanted to be the more kind of follow the standard. So what's happening is that if you are a single user, the data is yours. We are not able to see any of your data. We can only see that you are one user. That's it. Or maybe we can check how many estimates you did, but nothing about the detail. Same way, whenever you create a company, you give a password and to the company admin, and only this person and its agent can access this data. We didn't want to also collect any data related to the user or their thing, if not like just the broad analytics. Even in the map that we are using, we open source map instead of using Google Map to have a more like open source kind of software approach. And yeah, we follow basically the top 10 standard to make a software secure. So there are all these.
So you cannot trace on the map who has been using and who's been building. You cannot trace the user down.
Not really. We can check some analytics, like maybe how many agent a company has, but definitely not personal data like name, project location. We can just have like broad analytics to improve performance or see when there is something, but not. If we will have to work in another country, we'll have to move AWS in this other country for the data. So all these regulations are complied. Yeah.
Okay, thanks a lot. Looking at the time, we have almost reached the end. Maybe there is one question that you really want to address now as a closing answer, but. Is there anything specific you still want to say? Want to add? Yeah.
I just want to say that at this project they work like I don't know 50 people probably in these 5 years, and I don't know, I see some like Japan are in the chat. I don't know how to thank all the team and the people that believe in this, because it's been really a journey and it's still a journey. So I need to acknowledge all the support of the current team, the past team, and Rakhi, of course, and Mukta and Daniel and Randolph, all of us.
Great. Thanks a lot. Before I hand over to David, I want to thank you all. It has been very interesting. And thanks to all the people that were listening, all the contributions, all the very interesting questions. Thank you from us. And David, let me hand over to you now.
Yeah, thank you for this fruitful discussion. It was really, really interesting to listen to you and yeah, to the insights you gave the community. Before everybody leaves, maybe it would be good if you can post your contact also in the chat function. So if people want to approach you, they can have a contact. And before everybody leaves the room, I think the speakers are also interested about how you perceive as the community who was joining us today the relevance of the tool, in the incremental housing sector. So we will make a quick last poll where you just, if you work in the incremental housing sector, to what extent you see digital tools like NIF can support your activities, no? So maybe you can quickly drop your entry there. So we still have 70 people in the room almost, and yeah, there is a majority who sees the digital tools as very relevant. So I think that's also nice to hear for you, Mukta, and Rakhi and Marco, no?
Absolutely.
And there is also 1/4 would like to know more about it. So please get in touch with the NIF developers. And yes, thank you very much for everybody. Thank you to all the speakers. Thank you to Maartje. Thank you to Stefana for organizing the whole event.
Yeah.
And yeah, I wish you all a nice evening or morning or night, depending where you are, no?
Yes, thank you again. Take care, everyone, and we look forward to the follow-up questions that might come in our mailbox. So
Absolutely. Feel
I'll
free
be
to
in touch.
reach out.